Hi guys! I'm recording my presentation as I walk through my neighborhood of Cincinnati's Northside because my presentation is about noticing nature and how Proust has made me a closer observer of my surroundings. As I was reading Cambrai, I noticed that Marcel looks really closely at things and finds even ordinary things beautiful. For example, when Marcel comes upon the hawthorns on a walk with his grandfather and father, this is on page 140 and 141. He writes, "I found it all humming with the smell of hawthorns. The hedge formed a series of chapels that disappeared under the litter of their flowers, heaped into wayside altars. Below them, the sun was laying down a grid of brightness on the ground, as if it had passed through a stained glass window. Their perfume spread as unctuous, as delimited in its form, as if I were standing before the altar of the Virgin. And the flowers themselves adorned also, each held out with a distracted air, its sparkling bunch of stamens, delicate, radiating ribs in the flamboyant style. They offered me the same charm endlessly and with an inexhaustible profusion, but without letting me study it more deeply. I turned away from them a moment to accost them again with renewed strength. The sight of a single poppy hoisted its red flame to the top of its ropes and whipping it in the wind above a greasy black buoy made my heart pound like the heart of a traveler who spies on a lowland a first beached boat being repaired by a caulker and, before catching sight of it, cries out, 'The sea!'" Okay, so the effect of this passage when I read it was to make the beauty of those hawthorns and that single poppy explode into me. The beauty is made felt through Proust's use of metaphor, close attention to detail, and effusive language. First, his comparison of the hawthorns to a church when he says that the flowers were like a series of chapels, that the light was as though it had passed through stained glass windows, and that he felt as though he were standing before the altar of the Virgin. Second, he compares the sight of the poppy to a traveler heading to the coast, desperate for the ocean, spotting the first sign of water, a flag atop a ship. My experience of reading this passage is a lot like Marcel's experience of reading Bergotte, the fictional writer based off the writer Anatole France. Here's Marcel describing reading Bergotte. If he had found out some great truth or the name of a famous cathedral, he would interrupt his narrative and, in an invocation, an apostrophe, a long prayer, he would give vent to those exhalations. These passages, which he took such pleasure, were our favorite passages. I myself know them by heart. I was disappointed when he resumed the thread of his narrative. Each time he talked about something whose beauty had until then been hidden from me, about fine forests, about hail, about Notre Dame Cathedral, about Athalie of Phèdre. With one image, he would make that beauty explode into me. Okay, so that's on page 97. Okay, so basically, Bergotte makes the beauty of his world explode into Marcel, and Proust makes the beauty of Cambrai explode into me. So when I read about the beauty that Marcel beheld in Cambrai, I become awake to the beauty of my neighborhood, Northside. And what a beautiful time it is right now. Thanks to Swann's Way and to the stay-at-home order, I started to notice things about spring I had never noticed before. I noticed that the trees and the flowers bloom in waves. I noticed that the first flowers to bloom are the daffodils with their cheerful yellow faces. Then the magnolia trees start to bloom. At first, with their petals all closed up, the trees appear pink, but as the petals begin to unfold, they reveal their white insides, and the blossoms reveal their sweet scent. At the same time, the hyacinths are blossoming. Lavender, pink, peach, all sorts of colors. And the yellow forsythia and red quince bushes too. The pear trees with their little stinky white flowers are blooming. And have you ever noticed how straight up their branches are, almost as though they are made of metal and a magnet is being held above their canopies? Next bloom the weeping cherry trees with their manes of pink blossoms, beautiful but melancholy, like a young widow, and apple trees with their umbrella of light pink flowers. And in the second wave bloom the tulips, some big and bossy, some mottled like tie-dye, some with curly edged petals. They pop up amongst the blankets of periwinkle spread out over the flower beds. In the neighboring yard, the purple irises and the pink bleeding hearts emerge. Above them bloom red buds, bright pink and purplish pink little flowers on skinny branches, and finally, a third wave of blooming. Right now, Japanese cherry blossoms with their pink puffs of petals, and now dogwoods with their green-tinged flat white petals. Proust's reading of Bergotte and then his writing of Cambrai and its effect on me demonstrates the dialectic, I think I'm using that word right, between literature or great art and reality that James Wood writes about in How Fiction Works. Literature makes us better noticers of life. We get to practice on life itself, which in turn makes us better readers of detail in literature, which in turn makes us better readers of life, and so on and on. Here, let's cross the street. Check out this dogwood. Reading Bergotte makes Marcel a better noticer of life, which makes him a better writer. Reading his writing about his noticing of life makes me a better noticer of life, and hopefully a better writer too. Thanks for listening.